Hi, my name is Jennifer Matthews. I served as the 2013-2014 National Vice President of the AIAS, and I currently serve as an architectural designer at Array Architects. And today for the Ask an Architect show, we have Fady Bermada from Array Architects as well. So Fady, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and what you currently do at Array.
Sure. So I'm Fady Bermada, I'm principal with Array Architects. A little bit about my background. I got an undergraduate degree in architecture from Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh. I'm originally from Pittsburgh. And then moved to Dallas in sort of the traditional architect's path. Worked for a great firm in Dallas that did a lot of restaurant and retail design. As an undergraduate, really wanted to get into, be a designer, design these buildings, do some really, really cool stuff, and had some great opportunities. But then realized when I was working at this firm that it was very, very hard for me to present to clients, to really get a good understanding of how to convey ideas to individuals that don't commonly think of space or design in the way that we did. So I decided to go back and get a graduate degree. I also wanted to teach. I had this great plan about being a professor of architecture and working with a lot of young architects. So I went back to the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia, got a graduate degree in architecture, a post-professional degree, which was loads of fun. Got to meet some really, really interesting people, focused a lot on architectural theory, and then had the honor of teaching at Penn for a couple years after I graduated from there as well. And then started to work with a great firm in Philadelphia, doing design. I was actually a designer, did some really cool stuff, but then recognized too, when I was with that firm, that as a young designer, I looked around at the organization and wanted to be a leader within the firm, and saw that the individuals who were driving the firm forward, who were leading the firm, were the individuals who had enough organizational knowledge and industry knowledge to be able to take what we do as designers and align it with the expectations and needs of our customers. They had the language, they knew the right questions to ask, and they were the ones who actually could, quote unquote, manage both the product, the process of delivering a facility, and the customers and clients themselves. So as a young architect too, I decided I didn't want to wait for the time that that usually is necessary to gain that knowledge to be able to start managing those processes. So I decided to go back and get an MBA as well, because I figured that was the best way to get an understanding of the language, how to speak to our customers, how to understand their answers, and then to really be able to start bending what we do to meet the needs and expectations of our customers. I did that part-time, which I thought was really, really important for two reasons. One, there was no way I could afford to go back to school, right, without working, no way. But two, it was great too, because every time I went to class, I was able to take the knowledge that I gained from class and reapply it directly to what we were doing on a daily basis within the organization. So that was a fantastic experience because of many different reasons. But one, I did gain that language. I really did start to understand what our customers were looking for, and started to be able to engage with them on a different level, with their language, with their expectations. And two, I sort of had this epiphany while I was in the classes at NYU. I was in class with these really, really, really smart people that approach problem solving in a sort of myopic way. We would be given these Harvard Business Review cases, they would read the cases and see whether or not the strategies directly applied that were in those cases directly applied to the problems that we were given. And I realized that as architects, we're trained to question, we're trained to challenge. The design process is all about looking for context, looking for information from different sources, bringing it together to both influence the design process and to underpin the assertions that we're trying to make through the design process to make them both valuable to ourselves as architects and to our customers and clients. So I realized that the design process, how we're trained as architects, applies to a much, much broader portfolio of industries, of problems, and really had a great time challenging the other students in class to think differently, to use design thinking to challenge the way that other people have solved problems in the past, use innovation to come at it in a different way. So yeah, that's where I am now.
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit more about your current position at Array. Array currently has 3 entities: architects, advisors, and analytics. How does your particular position influence those 3 entities, and also how is design, I guess, a part of those 3 entities?
Yeah, so Array's really interesting, right? We're a 35-year-old architecture practice that is focused wholly on healthcare. But part of my background also, I left the field of architecture for a while because I felt that after I got out and I went back to the firm, I felt that architectural organizations, at least back at that time, had a very sort of singular view of our own value proposition to our customers and clients. And I challenged that as well and left architecture, went to work for a consultancy group to see how design actually applies directly to that as well. And then I met the people from Array. And frankly, they asked me a different question. They wanted to talk to me about not just coming back and doing design work for a building, but they asked me specifically, how can we challenge ourselves to provide additional value to our customers? How do we find the opportunities in the marketplace that no one else is really addressing? And how do we build systems that enable us to deliver on that value to those customers? So the conversation with Array was totally different. They said they really didn't want me to come back and practice architecture. They wanted us to start exploring different pieces of our business. So we started the advisory business, which really is about consulting with our customers, identifying the both challenges and opportunities, and then creating innovative solutions that enable our customers to gain competitive advantage or move forward and achieve their strategic goals. And as we started to have those conversations, we then also recognized that strategic decisions, especially in hyper-complex organizations like healthcare organizations, usually happen in a pretty fractured manner. There are these individual silos that go about their sort of historical means of analyzing problems. All of those insights and analytics go up to the C-suite, and then it's up to the C-suite to integrate and aggregate all of that information together to come up with a strategic decision for the organization. That's kind of difficult. So because of our position in both as architects and as advisors, we engaged in so many different pieces of information and analysis from across the organization. We noticed there was an opportunity to potentially build technologies that allowed or automated the aggregation of all that information that helped frame decisions, strategic decisions, much earlier than getting to the C-suite. So we built our analytics division as well. And I am the practice leader. I co-lead the advisory services, and I'm the chief strategy officer for analytics. And how design really applies to all 3 of those divisions. Architecture is sort of obvious, right? Not only with the design of the facilities themselves, but also applying the design process to how we deliver projects. We're trying to fundamentally redesign how we deliver architectural designs. But then locally for advisors, we problem solve. We bring the design process to broaden our perspective on what those challenges and opportunities are, and we create innovative solutions with our customers. And analytics is sort of a design problem in and of itself, right? I mean, we're creating a new business that's about building new technologies that provide value to our customers. So that's at one scale. That's sort of local to each one of those branches. But then design, again, at least in my estimation, is it's also at a much broader scale. It's the key element that integrates all three of those different aspects of our organization, because it's really in the integration of all three. I mean, the advisory services and the reframing of what our customers are trying to achieve in both business, from both a fiscal and operational and business sense, strategic sense, ultimately provides us the ability as architects to engage in a broader discourse about their organization. So it influences the design process for facilities. And also the ability to build technologies that aggregate information from across both internal to those organizations and external to those organizations gives us the ability also to have the context within which to truly innovate when we come to the table with our customers. So it's integrating all three of those different aspects of our organization. Design integrates all three of those and allows us to operate as a truly multifaceted team of experts.
So the business side of what you do on a day-to-day basis, for some of our students out there, we learn through design through our studios, but for many of the students, the business side of architecture is often an afterthought. So for you, in terms of your development through undergraduate studies architecture, through your business post-learning, on a day-to-day basis, what skills do you use that you gathered through your career and through your learning that you feel are most important?
So I think that's a great question. I think, it's interesting. Most people would say the business acumen. A lot of people would say, the language that you gain by being able to talk to your customers in a different fashion. But I would really say it's perspective. I would say that as designers, like we talked about earlier, you're trained to look beyond the given problem set. You're trained to draw upon the cultural context, the business context, the social context, the operational context to underpin your solution and to convey value to your customer in a way that they understand. I think that skill really does define what I do on a day-to-day basis, because we'll commonly have business-based conversations that I'll go way outside of a standard profit and loss statement. I'll go outside of a balance sheet and ask questions. I ask the annoying questions. I ask the questions, well, have you thought of this? How does this influence what you're trying to achieve? And so given that, I really think that the perspective that I learned as part of being an architect and being engaged within the design process is the key part of what I do on a day-to-day basis.
Gotcha. So kind of in closing, is there about 30 seconds of advice that you would offer our students out there as they navigate through their careers? Like, what would that advice be?
So my advice would be, sort of the standard, everybody says this, follow your passion, right? Because if you're passionate about it, you're going to succeed. So you really have to enjoy what you're doing, and you should follow your passion. Following up on that, though, I think that both in school, and especially afterward, when you transition into the professional environment, in school you're taught to design, right? In the beginning of your careers, as you move into the professional world, you're taught to focus on the technical aspects of being an architect, which you have to know, right? I mean, they're very important. We are in a technical art, right? But at the same time, don't ever lose the passion for design, and two, I would suggest that you don't just see design as only applying to the physical articulation of a facility or a building, because it's not. In my estimation, it applies to everything we do, whether it's design of systems, design of organizations, design of solution sets. It's all about innovation. So continue to question, continue to challenge, continue to use that perspective to make connections that frankly other people aren't trained to do. And in doing that, you'll provide value not only to your organization, but also outsized value to your customers and clients.
Awesome. So Fady, thank you for your time today on the Ask an Architect show. We really enjoyed all the content you shared today, and we hope you as the student viewers also enjoy. And we challenge you to think outside the box and think a lot about what Fady said today. So thank you for joining.